Uh, Governor, you want to do like a quick translation? I suggested that somebody does the translation in the group chat. So if there is anything, yeah, Governor, you can put that in a group chat for the Francophones.
Yeah. I can definitely do that.
Okay, so in the group, like a group chat for the Francophones. So we continue the conversation. And Priscille, there you may also help Governor. So anything that our friend just said, write that in the group chat in French for the Francophones, so that we can have like a more interactive exchange here. Now, I saw Yao Noel. I was wanting to ask a question to Adryan. Noel, if you are there, you can, I don't know if you wrote, you want me to read your question or you want to, to ask your question yourself. The first question I remember, is China a colonial, like a new colonial or new imperial power in Africa? I think that I've seen that question. So Maurice and Adryan, let's do that quickly so that, we can have, we can answer as many questions as we can.
Is that you want me to go?
Yes.
Is China a new imperial power in Africa?
Yes, like a new colonial
that was the question?
Yes.
I mean, in order for you to say that China is a new imperial power, you'd have to erase a lot of history, to arrive at that conclusion. First of all, nations, right, and states, what they do is they act in their interests, right? And China is pursuing its interests on the African continent, and it's using its economic heft in order to pursue its interests. Now, for Africans to pursue their interests and defend their interests, Africans cannot do it as individual states. It's just like there's no win situation there. So the onus is on Africans to organize as a bloc, and we cannot overstate how critical it is to return to Nkrumah, return to Toure, return to Keita, return to Lumumba, and envision the United States of Africa. And that's the best way for Africa to protect its interests, is to organize as a unified bloc. Now, we've seen on the continent how this debate has unfolded, unfortunately, and it appears that the go it slow camp, has won out in this pursuit. I think we all recall at the founding of the African Union, the debates that took place where you had the conservative bloc represented by folks like Thabo Mbeki of South Africa, Yoweri Museveni of Uganda, where they said that we wanted to move slow, regional integration, right? Southern African Development Community, East African Community, ECOWAS, and solidify those regional bases before we get to a unified continent. Then we saw Libya, led by Gaddafi at the time, was pushing for Pan-Africanism now, unify as a continent now. And not only pushing for it with his words, but he was the largest donor to the African Union. He was putting money behind his words in terms of the pursuit of a unified continent. So that's the first thing, that China is pursuing its interests on the African continent, and Africa has to organize to protect, as a continent, to organize to protect its interests. Now, we cannot compare China to the US or to Europe, right? In terms of their engagements on the continent. I often share with folks that when this question arises, I said, Xi Jinping is not Otto von Bismarck, right? If you want to talk about the modern form of the African continent today, that comes out of the Berlin Conference, where violence was used, assassinations, where coups, you just name it. Whether we're talking about France Afrique, right? The people in French-speaking Africa, they can show you an imperial power and how an imperial power acts. You can compare China's engagement in Africa to France's engagement in Africa, right? In terms of overthrowing governments, in terms of controlling monetary system, in terms of controlling key infrastructures, where we're talking about transportation, telecommunications, you name it. Basically, a neo-colonial project. So China is coming at a different level. Now, don't get me wrong. There was an interview with a Chinese businessman who was in Sudan, and they were asking him a question. He's like, "Why are you in Africa?" And he said, "I'm here to make money." So that's why he's there. He's there to make money. So the capitalist interests on the part of China, you cannot, ignore. But I wouldn't describe it, at least not at this stage, as an imperial power. I know China recently established its first base on the African continent in Djibouti, ostensibly to protect its trade interests, its water route interests. But you have the French is in Djibouti, the Russians are in Djibouti. I mean, the renting out of bases is Djibouti's #1 economic activity, right? Because of its strategic location. But again, it would be an exaggeration to look at China as an imperial power at this stage anyways. I'm not saying that it may not come to that, but I wouldn't put the Belt and Road Initiative under the category of imperialism.
Thank you very much, Maurice. Adryan, you want to answer the same question?
Yes, just very briefly. I think that when we look at China's bilateral relationships on the continent and then its role in the BRICS, again, their goal is resource extraction, right? And so if your government is representing the interests of all of its entire population, then you do have the opportunity to negotiate with them. You can have them build physical infrastructure. You can start to stipulate terms in terms of how many local folks from your country are actually occupying managerial positions. Like, there is room to negotiate. However, the bigger challenge is that many governments are only representing the interests of their immediate constituents and of the elite. And so that's fundamentally the problem. So it won't matter if it's China coming and trying to negotiate. It won't matter if it's the BRICS. It won't matter if it's the European Union. It won't matter who comes. If the states don't represent the interests of the aggregate population, then you're going to have exploitation. If you don't transform the means of production and labor and protect it, you're going to have the same sets of issues. So I think that if we're really going to prioritize regional economic integration, then that means that things like the Continental Free Trade Agreement and the role of the regional economic communities on the continent can't just push neoliberalism. They actually have to transform economic structures. And until and unless that happens, then it'll be BRICS this week that's not being leveraged effectively. It'll be China next week that continues not to be leveraged effectively. And that's why it's so important to understand the material conditions on the continent for each African country, because they're not ubiquitous, they're not the same. And so you have some governments that do a much better job of negotiating and protecting those collective interests than others. But unless there is an agreed upon and enforceable mechanism for collective bargaining, then you're not going to see a fundamental shift. African countries will maintain the same position in global value chains, and it's going to be fundamentally disruptive and exploitative, right? It's something that we have to resist and challenge. Nyaka, sorry, I did want to mention that Baruti Katembo also posted a question.
Yes, so we can, like, just 1 second, we get back to Baruti, because Noel was the first. Remember, after you were not even done, Noel wanted to ask a question.
Yes, yes, that's very true. Yes, sorry, go ahead.
So, Noel, are you there? Noel is not responding. So, Alphonse.
Thank you, Dr. Nyaka. My comment and also is like a solution. We do know, like the presenter said, we do know that.
Nyaka, I was here.
But we could not hear you. So Alphonse is talking now. So I will ask, when he's done, I'll come back to you.
Okay, great.
Okay, yes, Alphonse.
So we do know that we cannot expect from our leaders, to negotiate in the interest of African people, the best deal, the best trade deal with the BRICS or European or American. So it's possible as a civil society, as a non-government organization, as a Pan-African movement, to come up together and to put up a trade deal in the interest of African people. And then when we have that trade deal, to push the African Union, to push our different states to adopt that as a trade deal for the whole African continent, because African resources belong to African people. So if you do have leaders that doesn't, they don't want to, negotiate in the best interest of African people, why African civil society, Pan-African movement cannot come up with that deal, and then to push our government to adopt that. If they do not, it becomes a struggle for us to make sure everybody that comes to Africa to trade or to mine or anything have to go with that guideline, with that that new trade that the Pan-African movement put up on the table. That's my question.
Okay, Noel?
Yeah. I think at the end of the day, the issue is the question of democracy and a strong civil society. Because if you don't have a strong civil society, how can government be obliged to negotiate in the interests of the majority of the people? So I think the basic issue is the question of a strong civil society based on democracy, accountability of those who rule the countries. And I think this is the issue, or is the great part of the issue, if we want to deal definitely with good governance in the unique and the whole interest of the masses of the people. This is my opinion.
Okay, thank you very much, Maurice. I see Baruti have some long questions here. For Maurice Carney, I have a question for Ndugu Maurice Carney. How can Africa Free Trade Agreement be optimized and put into solid operate to maximize intra-Africa economic engagement? In parentheses, trade, tourism, sharing resources. Okay, I think there's another question. What will it take to launch the sentiments of my aforementioned inquiry/question, given your thoughts that BRICS, though representing economics, does nothing to boost trans-Africa economic engagement? That is for Maurice. And then that's the question asked by Baruti. Let me see the question that was asked to Adryan. The BRICS acronym only includes one continental African country, South Africa. Given this, do you see BRICS as a near future forerunner for countries like Britain, France, or Portugal to develop economic consortiums with selected African countries, while the Africa Free Trade Agreement simultaneously operates and grows in development? Example, Britain links with Angola, Nigeria, and Zambia as an economic community. The BNZ, what are your thoughts? If possible, please address my inquiry or part of the audience dialogue for the Zoom program. Asante Sana, thanks, many thanks. So we're going to take those two questions on the Africa Free Trade Agreement. The two questions are asked by Baruti, the comment and question of Alphonse, and then the question of Maurice Carney about civil society. Maurice, start with you.
So, yes, I'm not so optimistic about civil society and civil society bringing about the type of change that's being discussed, especially as it relates to trade deals. Really, from the grassroots perspective, is that the working class, the oppressed masses, have to organize to acquire power that is through the state. One of the fundamental differences between Pan-Africanists of today and Pan-Africanists of yesterday, the Pan-Africanists of yesterday had control of the state, right? So when, if we look at Nkrumah and Touré, for example, when France, just ran roughshod over Sékou Touré because of his stance against, the French neocolonial network. It was Nkrumah who was able to leverage the resources of the state to assist Touré when France just took everything out of the country and pretty much left the country destitute. So the biggest challenge for today is for the grassroots, for so-called civil society, is to organize to acquire power. Not all, you can organize to put pressure on power, of course. We saw what happened in Guinea when, actually we can look at Guinea, we can look at Senegal, when individuals come out of the opposition and they get in power, they I don't know what it is, they develop amnesia and act in the interests of the local elite and foreign capital.
Yeah, Maurice, it's exactly what I was saying. The civil society has to acquire strength and power.
Yeah, but the power that you're talking about is not solely to put pressure on the state, but to acquire control of the state. Because if you look at the African Union is made up of states, and one could hardly say that those the leaders in those states represent the interests of the people. One could hardly say that, right? If they represent the interests of the people, they're doing a pretty shoddy job of it. So the challenge is to get Pan-Africanists in power, Pan-Africanists that are accountable to the working class, to the oppressed masses. Now we hear, and Nyaka could probably chime in on it. It seems like some of the folks in Ghana are celebrating, Gbagbo's recent speech, where he channeled Kwame Nkrumah and saying, Nkrumah was right. It's the Nkrumah vision that we need to save Africa today. After he's been in power for I don't know how many years, and now he seems to have caught religion. So
be gentle on the.
Okay, I'll be gentle then. But if the trade deals that Adryan is talking about in the negotiations, there's a technical aspect to it, right? Where you have to have the necessary expertise. Like for example, if you look at the Congo, the deal it negotiated with China, it wasn't done by a Congolese. It was done by a Canadian by the name of Paul Fortin, who used to work for a Canadian mining company, right? The laws of the mining laws in the Congo were written by the World Bank, right? So you have, even if you look at Guinea, you look at Rwanda, these countries, they have advisors like Tony Blair. Like Tony Blair is like an economic advisor to the Rwandan government, to the Guinean government, and telling them how to deal with their natural resources with the West, serving as bridge characters. So there just needs to be like a upswell from down below, right? And we see signs of it happening in different parts of the continent. But the ultimate, but where we see signs of it breaking down, I forget the brother's name who was talking. If we see signs of it breaking down, like we see the uprising in Burkina Faso, we saw the uprisings in Senegal, is when you get to the level of like, well, what do you do next? If you drive somebody out of power, there isn't yet a path where that mass energy and the mass interests can carry to the point of capturing the state and then acting and then the leaders are in acting and functioning of the state. What you're talking about in terms of civil society, that role of civil society would be more relevant, right? If the civil society had a credible partner in power that's acting in its interest, then you can hold them accountable. Then you can put deals on the table or recommendations on the table for them to enact. And I don't think,
Maurice,
I don't know.
Just a short comment on what happened recently in Guinea,
Mhm.
where Alpha Conde, who is a French puppet, was ousted.
Right. Oh, you was asking me to
That's
make a short comment on it?
comment, yes. Yeah, short comment, yes, on your part.
Oh, I mean,
Okay,
there's so much.
Maurice, on this 1 minute.
Okay, I'll be just really brief. A few quick things. You said a French puppet was ousted. I don't know. The coup leader who was replaced him, was part of the French Legionnaire. The thing about it is that imperial powers, and we have to be really careful, they have their hands both on those in power and the opposition. The choices that we're being given these days usually have the strings of the imperial powers attached. The coup in Guinea was certainly popular. If you look at the people supported the coup in Guinea because they wanted to get rid, of Conde. Conde had jailed political prisoners, suppressed opposition, killed people, had the military fire on civilians leading up to the elections. So he was despised so they're like anybody but him. So they cheered on the coup. So it was supported by the people without a doubt. But let's see how things unfold going forward. Of course, we know ECOWAS lacks any credibility whatsoever in the Guinea situation because you have figures like Ouattara out of Cote d'Ivoire, who did the same thing that that Conde did in Guinea, extending his term, and then ECOWAS co-signed it. They didn't come out in any strong way against Ouattara or against Conde. So the coup was a popular coup, but let's see what unfolds going forward. But first things they said was that the corporate interests were going to be protected. That means the economic interests that are in place. Guinea is known for its bauxite and its iron. And not to be disparaging to Guinea, they call Guinea Little Congo because of the tremendous wealth that exists in that country. But we're talking about a country that's rich in Pan-Africanism, where the people, this is the Guinea of Sékou Touré, where these are the people that said no to the French. So the masses desire a genuine leader that's going to represent their interests. And when they saw Conde being removed, they were delighted. And I think, that's what I would share about Guinea, just within the 1 minute.
Okay. Oh yeah, no, that was what, 1 long minute, right? Thank you. Adryan is laughing. Adryan, go. Adryan, do you want to respond to?
Okay, sure. And I will stick to 60 seconons. So
Okay.
I think that
No, you can have two because
120 seconds. Okay,
no,
I don't know.
2 minutes, yeah. 2 minutes, not 2 minutes.
Riches. Okay. So I think Baruthi's comment is really important, and the question is really important because ideally, that's what the Continental Free Trade Agreement was supposed to do, right? Prevent the colonial economic relationships from continuing, like with Britain, with France, et cetera. And so it would not allow countries like Angola and Nigeria and Zambia to have some separate trade agreement with the UK, right? Because then that would undermine whatever efforts toward regional integration the Continental Free Trade Agreement was supposed to put in place. But again, I think the broader challenge is to make sure that there's resistance on multiple levels. So not only, I think civil society does have a role to play, at the same time, we can think about unions as well, right? And you can also think about civil society organizations and unions fielding political candidates, right? Because part of the problem, I think, is that we tend to think in silos in terms of trying to push for autonomy and some sense of sovereignty. And so it's like, okay, either the state or civil society, and the two can't mix. Well, neoliberalism and neocolonialism is very integrated. It's very holistic. So it takes the state, it will take civil society, it'll take discursive rhetoric around labor. It's really kind of all encompassing. And so our efforts toward resistance need to be just as comprehensive as well. So you have to put, if you're going to argue that the state is important, then that also means that you need to have leverage outside of the state and internally within the state, right? Because some of those institutions actually just need to be transformed. And, putting another person in power isn't necessarily going to address that that kind of level of structural inequality, but some effort toward collective bargaining, which is what every other region in the world that has successes in terms of growth and addressing inequality does, is going to have to happen on the continent. And whether that means, you know, the CFTA gets completely gutted, that's fine, because it's not really structurally different than most neoliberal models. But, you know, the idea that it exists does potentially create the option of other grassroots organizations actually coming in and redefining it, reorganizing it, and then implementing it in a way that's actually comprehensive and that represents everyone's interests. So I'll stop there. I think my 120 seconds is up.
Yeah, thank you very much, Adryan. So is there any other call? Yeah, I see Ange David. So now this is going to be the last round of questions. And so make your questions and comments brief, and then so that we can wrap up and then stick to the 1 hour and 30 minutes, because Maurice Carney has an engagement. Is like there is a program. Maurice, we talk when you answer. You know, you may talk about the program in a few. So let's.
Dr. Nyaka, I must go to church.
Okay, you going now?
No. When we finish.
Okay, thank you very much. So he has to go to church, right? Jesus is waiting for him. So yes. So Ange David.
Yeah, thank you. I would like to thank all the presenters. One of my what Maurice Carney already responded concerning the role of civil society, because myself also I'm a bit you know, not so happy or not so enthusiastic with civil society, because I'm working for now 20 years for civil society. I think we are not the most legitimate, you know, in that sense to have that change. Of course, we can contribute, we can try to educate people, we can try to do alliance, to you know, to do lobby, but we have to be very cautious about the fact that we are not the one detaining the power to, you know, to that, you know, to that things. Maybe the only question I can also address to Maurice Carney is on Belt and Road Initiative. Do you think that this project, how it is designed in Africa, will help and, you know, facilitate the African development? Because for me, it is look like more extractive project. How can you maybe, or what do you think on that? Thank you.
Okay, so if there is any other question, we will take it, and then we're going to finish this session. Okay, so anyway, I don't see any questions. So Maurice Carney, please go ahead.
You know, it's important when you talk about China and Africa, you have to also talk about the U.S. and Africa, because the U.S. has declared that they see Africa as a space. This is under the Trump administration with National Security Advisor, former National Security Advisor Josh Bolton, said that Africa is a space for great power competition. So if we look, for example, in West Africa, Niger and Chad, where we see the United States recently in Niger establish $100 million drone base in Niger. At the same time, we see the Chinese is establishing a pipeline to transmit or transport oil through from Chad to Niger right to the coast. So here it is, you have the two powers in their juxtaposition. Now, I'm not saying that China isn't engaged in an extractive process throughout the continent, but when compared to the US, it's bringing militarization, drones, wars against, fights against terrorism. There really is no comparison in terms of a savvy African leaders leveraging what China has to offer and utilizing that in order to propel the particular country forward or the continent as a whole. So at this, recall the primary concern around the Belt and Road Initiative is the indebtedness, whether or not Africans are going to be indebted to China, and then China is going to leverage that indebtedness for its interests. And China has done that to some extent, right? Africa Confidential recently published a piece on, how can I say, aggressive Chinese diplomacy, where China is calling on different African leaders, one, to support them as it relates to Taiwan and China's claims around Taiwan. Two, to support them in votes at the UN. So we see like a diplomatic push, right? Which is China acting in its interest. Will that Rubicon be broken? In the future, where they get to be involved in choosing leaders or overthrowing leaders on African continent? We don't know. But as it stands today, it seems like the Belt and Road Initiative is not, outside of the questions of indebtedness, is not harming the continent as a whole. But ultimately, right, it's not the Chinese or the Americans, the Russians, the Indians that's going to develop Africa. It's going to be the Africans. So we have to, as Africans, have to organize, Africans at home and Africans abroad, organize for the development of the continent, so the continent could be in a position to protect its interests.
Okay, thank you, Maurice Carney. Adryan, and the last comment, and then Maurice Carney will announce your event in a few. Adryan?
Okay,
So
great.
concluding remarks.
Yes, concluding remarks are just thank you so much, Nyaka, for putting this panel together and the conference and the symposium. And I definitely will be tuning in to the next one, because I think these kinds of intellectual exercises are really important for us, because it gives us some tangible steps to move forward, right? Some actual alternatives that we can think through. Again, I just want to emphasize that having control over resources and addressing the negotiating power imbalances is going to be essential for any efforts toward regional integration. So thank you.
That's beautiful.
Thank you, Adryan. Thank you, Maurice.
Thank
Maurice.
you.
Thank you, Dr. Nyaka.
Yeah, thank you, Noel. Yes, Maurice?
Just thank you so much, Nyaka, for providing us with a platform to share, however briefly. As you can tell, we come from a position of organizing. That's what we do. And of course, our organizing is informed by scholarship as well. And we also draw on the tradition of Pan-Africanists. And our organization today is honoring the daughter of one of Africa's great...
Maurice, before you talk about that, I'm sorry. So somebody just posted a question, shouldn't Africa be concerned about terrorism? So as you talk about that in the conclusive remark, then you talk about Juliana.
Oh, absolutely. Africa should be concerned about terrorism, but if you just any objective observer would look at terrorism on the continent, and it seems like the more that the United States has engaged the continent, right, the greater the terrorism. The U.S. military presence has increased 2,000%, and we see an increase in terrorism on the African continent. If we look at the Sahel, for example, why is there terrorism in the Sahel? What did Gaddafi say? Gaddafi said they're arming, you get rid of me, you're going to be arming the terrorists. And now we see the Sahel is awash with weapons that are in the hands of terrorists. Why? Because NATO and Africana bombed Libya and overthrew the Gaddafi regime. And that did more to accelerate terrorism in the Sahel than anything else. If you're talking about terrorism, one thing that surely isn't the answer, and that is bringing in U.S. troops and increased U.S. militarization. That's not the answer to resolving terrorism. So that's the point I was trying to make.
Thank you. So talk about Juliana now.
Oh yes, as I was saying that we're organizers and draw upon the tradition of Pan-Africanism in thought and in action. And today, we're taking the opportunity to honor the daughter of one of Africa's greatest Pan-Africanists, Patrice Lumumba, and we encourage you to join us today as we do that. Just in the next half hour or so, I'll be going on. We'll be launching the program, and I'll put a link in the chat so that people can register and encourage you to join us and carry on the Pan-African tradition. We often celebrate Pan-Africanism, but the children of the Pan-Africanists who are still doing the work, we don't usually provide them with a recognition that they deserve. So we encourage you to join us today. I just sent the link in as a part of Congo Week to celebrate Juliana Lumumba the daughter of Patrice Emery Lumumba, and continue the Pan-African tradition of calling for a United States of Africa as articulated by Kwame Nkrumah.
Okay, so thank you very much. We're going to end this session in the next 4 or 5 minutes. So I just wanted to thank all of you. I'm glad I saw some new people who came here to to attend this conference. This is what we've been doing, and this is our calling, and this is our cause. So we were born for that. And then, as I told you in the beginning of this presentation, where we launched a platform in 2007, people thought that we were crazy, we were wasting our time. And then just 5 years later, our friends on the continent organized, and then we've been witnessing and seeing a series of subsequent people's power movements in different parts of Africa. So now Pan-Africanism is back. And like Maurice Carney was saying, Gbagbo, who was the president of Ivory Coast after 10 years in the International Criminal Court, and then he was freed thanks to the resilience of the Ivorians, and particularly thanks to the popular support and mobilization of the African people and some internationalists. And drawing lessons from that experience, Laurent Gbagbo just launched in Ivory Coast, which is traditionally known as a country that opposed Pan-Africanism, the people's, the party of the African people in French, African people. And then, so that this is a big shift in the history of Pan-Africanism. That is a big shift because of Gbagbo, what he represents. He survived the French neocolonialism, came from the ICC prison. Now all the media in the age of the social media talking about Kwame Nkrumah, talking about Pan-Africanism. This is a favorable historical factor. So today we launched the New Dawn Vision project, and I'm grateful to my friends. And then they know how much I admire them, how much I love them. I could not count on thousands of people, but I could count on a few. And then they have been there, loyal friends, Ivorians, and then Maurice Carney is one of them, Adryan, Sia, Jipa, Blackman was here last time with Heather. So these are the people who have been doing what they could, or what they can, with other friends, and then we are winning some victories in the 21st century. So in the next couple of years, there will be a serious conversation about the BRICS in Africa. And then we want to be, we are already the pioneers in engaging that conversation. And I thank you, Adryan, that was beautiful. Maurice Carney, that was amazing. Listen, I'm going to be honest with you. I was a little bit surprised by how much you guys know about those topics, and then how you could really nail it like the way they say it in the United States. The same way last time Sia and Sean did a great job, and then Heather, and then some other friends. So thank you so much, friends. And we will try to connect with Maurice Carney's event. And last week when we organized the Thomas Sankara conference, we had our brother from Canada, Aziz Fall, did a great presentation. Dr. Kalfani, a great presentation. And then my wonderful Dr. Mjiba, she was like outstanding. And so sometimes when I walk in the street and people want to disrespect me, I don't talk about some of the things I do. I say, do you know my friends? Do you know Adryan? Do you know Mjiba? Do you know Maurice Carney? Do you know Sia? And do you know Sean and Heather and some other ones? So I love you, friends. And so beside the Maurice Carney event, next week, that is for the Francophones. Under the umbrella of the New Dawn Vision, we are going to organize a conference just for the youth in French, because we want our group to is about the summit that the French Macron organized with the African youth. So we want our French youngsters, to talk about it. So you will receive an email about that. And then on November the 5th, myself, I will be on the International Municipal BRICS Summit. It is a hybrid program. It is organized in Russia. I will be talking from here, and then my perspective will be about the alternative development model for Africa and for the BRICS. And so I will be definitely, I'm going to take into account what Adryan and Maurice Carney said today. And so this is what we're going to do. And next year, this is important, because next year on January 15, 2022, we around the Patrice Lumumba's Day, we want to organize a conference about Lumumba, and then we want to talk about the restitution of African cultural artifacts. And then, because as you know, Lumumba's tooth has been taken by by Belgium for more than 50 years. So we will have this. And Maurice Carney can be there, but he proposed another person. And Yao Noel here, who is the president of the network of journalists, who created a Patrice Lumumba's like a Freedom of Press Award. Then he's going to it's going to be what we're going to do like next year. So thank you, and then so you will be receiving some emails from me. Thank you so much. And then those who want to stay here, there is somebody called Jacques Berthelot. He posted some. I would like you to download it. He put something about Africa's growing and suicidal trade extraversion. SOL June 12, 2021. The link is there. Please click on the link, read it. I will do that myself so that all of us we can learn. Thank you so much. Thanks. So those who want to stay, they can stay. We can talk a bit. But Yao Noel wants to go to church. Jesus is waiting for you. So we talk later on.
Bye. Thank you so much, Nyaka. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye, everyone. Congrats.
Jacques, thank you. Jacques Bartolo. Jacques, where are you talking from?
Yes.
Bye,
Yes. Thank you so much. Thank you.
Let me see your face.
Yes. You don't see my face. Oh, sorry. Okay.
Yeah, I see. Oh, yes, I see. Thank you.
Okay. Okay. Yes.
Go
Thank
ahead.
you.
I'm listening.
Okay. I am from Toulouse in France.
Oh, okay. And then you speak French. That's great.
Okay. Yes.
So how did you hear about the program? Oh, you are. How did you hear about the program?
Oh, I saw. I received your invitation, so I came. But I have been reformed for 20 years now, and I was teaching agricultural economics, and I have worked 10 years in Africa.
Thank you so much. So we may even have. So please provide your email and your contact information so that
Yes.
we will certainly invite you one day.
Yes, you find my email on the file I sent to you. You will find my email. Yes.
Thank you so much. I see that. I just click on it. I see that. Thank you so much. Okay, thank you, Jack. And then we will keep in touch. And then thank you so much for being here.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. And then my friends of the Conventions of People's Party.
Hello.
Yes, how are you, Baba? So, Kuba, yes, so can you introduce yourself? We're done technically, but we want to seize the opportunity to network a little bit. Yes.
Thank you. So, did you want me to? But anyway, I run a museum in Lansing, all around the African World Museum and Resource Center in Lansing, Michigan, and I was invited to this conference by Rudy. He had mentioned I should, come in. So I'm a Pan-African by 50 some years now. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to take your information with Baruti, and then so that I can add you to the mailing list. So thank you very much. This is what we've been doing for more than 10 years now. And then, like I said, we've been moving forward. Well, we're trying to do the right thing. That's nice. So when Panga Sabadogo, where are you calling from?
I'm calling from Philadelphia.
Yeah, I think
Pennsylvania.
I think you reached out to me recently, right?
Right, exactly.
Yes. Yeah, I'm glad. So we need to talk. I tried to reach out to you.
No problem. No problem. And thank you for the French part. We're gonna wait for the French part too. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you. Yeah, last time you were not there for the Sankara conference. You should have been there. That was great.
You're right, exactly.
Thank you very much. Oh yeah,
Thank you very
this
much.
is what we're doing, friends. This is the networking session, so we can be here for 5 more minutes.
Thank you, Dr. Nyaka.
Merci
See you.
beaucoup. Merci. Thank you, all of you. Thank you, everyone. Thanks for Julia, and thanks to Julia. Thanks to all my friends and everyone who came today. Thanks. I'll let you go, and then we keep in touch. Bye.